Hello, and welcome to One More Word Pod, presented by Gotta Say It Radio. I am Marvin Williams, joined by Mr. Matthew Allen, which is Octavius Ornthar Gerard Ron the third, the half of fifth, sixth, seventh, and three quarters, 0.9.
And it should tell you how good I'm doing. We're recording this on Sunday evening, and this is my fifth coffee of the day.
Because it's America, and we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in the middle of the restart, jump start, other start. Major League Baseball is figuring out a way to get it done. The NBA is trying to figure out a way to get it done better. I guess 10-minute quarters for start. A lot of teams don't have full rosters yet for the obvious reasons. We were praising the NFL, saying how, you know what, all you got to do is sit back, let everybody else do what they're going to do, and it should not be that big a deal. They shouldn't have any kind of problems, and they're finding a way to prove us wrong.
The thing is, it's almost August, and we've not heard a plan. Like, I get heading into this point in July and seeing what the MLB and the NHL and the NBA are doing, and then looking at it and trying to give a little bit of perspective and being in continuous conversation with their players' union. I've seen Russell Wilson and J.J. Watt in the past few hours come out and say, there is no plan. We have no plan. We've not been told what's going on, which is, indicative of the National Football League on its own, because they tend to not tell their players a lot of what's going on. And if you look at...
They don't have to.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
And if you see how they handle labor situations like the 2011 lockout and then the referee lockout that was subsequent to that, not a lot of good signs for our friends over on Park Avenue.
No, and the reality of being the big kid on the block, and I mean it every single way, where there was no need, there was no worry, there was no fear, there was no whatever, because no one will ever unseat you, right? And we always talk about the greats of the game. Don't worry, this is going to tie together in a minute. We always talk about the greats of the game. We talk about the Michael Jordans. We talk about the Tiger Woods. We talk about all these other people, Bill Russell, the ones who can somehow tend to be the greatest at their art and still find a way to dig in every day to find some sort of motivation to move forward. So here's how the NFL is not like Tiger Woods. Most golfers, when they finally win a tournament, are so glad to finally get that win. Now, if you come in 10th in the tournament, you're still making a pretty decent check. And if you have a career of, let's say, over a 20-year career, and you finish top 10, 10 times in 20 years, you've made some decent money. Okay, you made a living. Awesome. Well done, you. No one will know who you are unless you get a win. And now no one will know who you are unless you get more than one win. Because they'll talk about, you remember that time that, player X won this or player Y won that. Tiger Woods will win a tournament, and then he might take a week off, maybe. We might come back the next week. Depends on where he is in terms of how he plans his schedule. Because he plans his schedule around playing in tournaments, not just to make the cut and cash a check for the weekend, but to win that tournament. That's the only thing on his mind. Anything short of a win is a failure, which is proven by the highest winning percentage of any golfer in the history of the game. So you see other players, they will win a tournament or have a really super high finish, but more specifically, we'll go back to the winning a tournament. And then they will drop off a cliff because they're so emotionally drained, so physically drained, so spiritually drained, that by the time it's time for them to tee it up again, it's like, I don't know if I have another one in me. Here's how the NFL is not like Tiger. They've won for so long, so many times, so easily because the fans allow them to. The position of the game positions into that way where you can put the NFL against pretty much anything. The worst NFL, and we did this 4 weeks ago. You can put the worst pairing of an NFL game against the best pairing of probably every other sport, and the best pairing and maybe like the NBA might eke out a victory, but it'll be an eke. It won't be like, wow, they totally crushed the NFL that night. So because of that, and because of how the NFL has done their business, they have never had to put themselves in a position to be transparent about how they do anything, including ownership, by the way, or allowing ownership.
I didn't even know heading into the past few weeks that the Washington football team had minority owners. I just thought Dan Snyder owned the team lock, stock, and barrel.
Exactly, because of how they choose to present themselves. One, two, and we're going to get this. We're going to talk about the double standard of social media in a little bit, but there's an idea of, can you imagine the cry? No one's ever happy anymore.
No.
Okay, this is the universe in which we live. Everything has got to be a yeah, but it's Thursday. Whatever. So you could imagine the heat that Dan Snyder takes, the owner of the Washington Redskins, the heat that he takes on a regular basis, right? And imagine, and over the years, the challenges to him about him being a racist, the challenge to him being, unhelpful toward minorities, yada, yada, yada. And him coming and say, well, I have minority owners. And people say, yeah, right, sure you do. Or that's just for show, because that's what we do. We bang you for something. The second you show that you're not that, we bang you because we say you're faking it. And believe me, family, when I tell you, the one thing that owners, especially in NFL and people of that sort of financial ilk or acumen or whatever you want to call it, they're not faking anything just because. If it's not profitable, if it's not a win for them, they're not doing it. And so to say and imply anything else, I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying really think about the type of people you're talking about. Can you imagine somebody like Jerry Jones faking something to make other people feel good? The guy who would say in front of a whole bunch of people, some that he said he knew he was recording him, that Bill Parcells ain't blank. I mean, he could care less what you think. All right. People like that can care less what you think. So here it is. The NFL has a situation where they've never had to sort of kowtow to anything else other than the way they want to do things. And now, for the first time, probably in the last, I don't know, and I'm going to throw out the strike years too. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to throw out the strike years because they knew if they got a bunch of replacement players, see replacements, Washington Sentinels story about the team in D.C. during the strike era, one of the strikes anyway, that people will still watch because it's still the NFL. It doesn't have to be good NFL. It just has to be NFL and people are going to watch. So now for the first time ever, they're being put in a position where people have invested enough, people have been kicked enough, PSLs, the whole nine, everything else, has brought people to a point where now they're like, you know what? If I'm going to pay you $80,000 a year for the right to buy a ticket, and then still have to buy the ticket and buy my parking, blah, 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 blah. I want to get something back. I want to get some food on my plate. And they've never faced that at this level before on a lot of different issues. Okay, not just because of the PSLs, not just because of everything else, but with what's going on with Washington and the sexual harassment that was systemic within the organization and things like that. So for the first time, they're getting sort of like a kick in the crotch to, you got to show your work, dude. Mm-hmm. And with this perpetual off season, with what's going on, everybody's being held accountable now for how you handle your business, including now the NFL. For the first time ever, we thought the NFL, I shouldn't say we, I'm not going to speak for you. I thought the NFL had the heads up on everyone else. I thought because they are the last professional season to try to get into this hurdle. We lost the start of baseball season. We lost in the basketball season. We lost in the hockey season. Still, I'm one of my hockey fantasy league. I'm going to say that until I'm not. Those seasons got kicked and trying to find a way to restart. I thought the NFL would watch them try to restart, learn from their mistakes, learn from how they present themselves, put themselves in a position to benefit from everyone else's mistakes, and do what the NFL does. Come in like a bulldozer, Mack truck, knock it down, knock it out. And that's not the case because of what You just said, Matthew, because they're not being transparent, because they're not being, I won't say honest, but it doesn't appear as though they're being completely ingenuous
They're
to
not forthcoming. They've never been a
right.
forthcoming league, especially under Roger Goodell. But that's not an indictment, in my opinion, of Roger Goodell.
Not at all.
I think Roger Goodell, for all the slings and arrows, is the best commissioner in pro sports. Adam Silver is a close second. Rob Manfred is 87th. And good old Uncle Gare is 922nd. But the drop-off from 2 is very steep.
Oh, immensely so.
Like,
immensely
I'm like
so.
74, and I'm not even a commissioner of anything.
So it's this presentation of reality that now, in an era where people are trapped at home, people are struggling to figure out how they're going to make their next check, how they're going to make a living, how they're going to do what they're going to do next. How, and oh, by the way, and please don't think I'm just saying that to say that. There's reality. Some people worried about their lives, their family member lives, and their loved one lives. Okay, so I'm just not throwing that aside. But in a time where the people who can look above the other things to look toward to what they would find as a relief, as a relief in sports or whatnot, are asking, or they want to see the homework, and how, they want to check your work too. They don't want just the answer. We want the work too. We want to see how did you come to this point, and the NFL, for the first time, players are saying, look, I'm making choices. I have a wife expecting a kid. I have this, I have that. They're taking the same road that a lot, and that's one thing that all the players across the table, from the NBA to the NFL to some in the NHL and Major League Baseball, are making a choice. Some players have tested positive, some players have not, but they have family members that they feel are compromised. They feel themselves might be compromised. We haven't even gotten to the coaches yet. We haven't even gotten to the staff yet. We're just talking about the players on the field. One of the most illogical things I've heard was, well, these guys are super healthy, so if they get sick, it's going to be fine.
That's a fallacy.
If that was your thought process, please never speak again. Just don't. That's not the way these things work. Okay, I almost said something I know I shouldn't have said. Just the when you're talking about something that invades and does the damage that it does to the human body, regardless of your level of fitness, whether real or perceived, okay, don't make a statement like that because you have no idea what you're talking about. You just don't. So say what you want to say, but don't say that, because you're not dealing in reality. If I've been around here we go. I've been around athletes who have gotten a cold, a regular head cold, head full of snot, blow it out, my favorite lime green color snot cold. You can't breathe, your body can't oxygenate. You cannot oxygenate, you cannot perform at your peak level of performance. Don't you think that affects those cats? Why do you think we make a big deal about, I was almost saying Magic Jordan, Michael Jordan, and the flu game? That might be the pizza game. That might be the bad pay-per-view game. Whoever happened that night in Utah. Okay, so why do we make such a big deal about that? Some people can't even go to work for 8 hours and answer the phone because they have a cold. And you expect these cats to perform at a mega high level when they're fighting off not being able to breathe. Get real. And that's just a cold. That's not this. We're not talking stomach virus. We're talking about this.
It goes to me, 2 ideas. The first one is the idea that all athletes are superhuman. It goes into that larger-than-life aspect that athletes, much like all celebrities, are not normal human beings. And we've built up that mythos across all sports for the past 70 years. Because ever since the rise of Babe Ruth, which we talked about a few weeks ago on the show, star athletes have this larger-than-life personality that they can't escape from. And that kind of goes across the board for all athletes, especially in the 4 major professional sports in the United States. The other one is the idea of expectation and the wanting to be entertained. It's a very Romanesque idea of, you're here for me, dance, do what I want you to do, perform for me. It's a very, I pay your salary kind of feeling. Yeah. It's a very Karen kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And as a fan of professional sports, trust me, I get it. Pro sports is a release. It's a relief. It's something that we could take our minds off of. It can be the highest form of human achievement, human art. It's poetry when you see the best in the world compete, but it's still just a distraction, and it's obsession, and it's the cultural construct that a lot of people have tied their lives into. Look at how NASCAR, the backlash on what happened with Bubba Wallace. Take a look at how certain people who are college sports fans, Toomer's Corner, that's all we have to say, in how people treat sports and athletes and the idea of sports culture. A man poisoned trees. Harvey Updike poisoned trees because his team lost. And that is a level of sociopathy that I cannot understand, but you are aware of because of sports. If you take a look at some of the horror thrillers of the past 15 years or 25 years, The Fan with Robert De Niro, what's it about? A deranged fan. Big Fan with Patton Oswalt. What is it about? A guy who's obsessed with the New York Giants. I felt a little too seen for that movie, but we as fans, and Marvin and I as member of the sports community, whether it's as journalists, athletes, or the guy who just yells for money, there's so many parts of this that you need to give a little bit of leeway to. And when baseball players started, kvetching about everything that's going on and that initial backlash, it was kind of disheartening. But I don't see that really happening with football fans unless it becomes a Kaepernick-like situation where someone just completely says, yeah, I'm not doing this. You're not going to get me to do this, and completely sits out.
Interesting you would say Kaepernick situation, because that's what a lot of people are talking about now. They're talking about, in conjunction with the idea of so many players in the NFL want to express their social awareness and their social values and taking a knee. And also you have the group that is looking to sort of reposition themselves within sort of the to put themselves in the fore of using their voice to really make a point about the current social issues that are bothering them the most, right? So here we have a case where Colin Kaepernick did what he did. He said what he said. NFL now has done a 180 saying, well, more specifically, Roger Goodell did a 180. Yeah, that was wrong. We probably shouldn't have treated him that way. I'm going to take a knee. I'm going to do this. So now all of a sudden, wow, here it is, Kaepernick the prophet. Hopefully, maybe not being able to benefit from it. But you talked about Bubba Wallace, and we're going to tie these two together. Bubba Wallace is booed at one of the first races that had fans back, and then when he crashed, people cheered. That is a level of, I have no word for that disgusting. I would care to say here.
Disgusting.
Yeah, okay, that's good. Because it is when again, a month ago, maybe a little more than a month ago, we talked about that we've lost discourse. That now all of a sudden people can no longer just disagree. If we disagree, I have to dislike you. Like, when did that become productive? Wars have been started because of that. And lives have been lost because of that. They have nothing to do with whatever thing is between the two people who decided they didn't like each other. And so to be so, again, this moment, and don't lose your thought. This moment. I nearly stopped becoming a Jet fan when Chad Pennington was hurt and people were cheering. Jet fans at home. Jet fans were cheering that he was hurt. He was trying to get off the field. So his team, he's hurt. and he's trying to get off the field so his teammates or his team would not lose a timeout. And the fact that people, it's still, when I talk about it now, I still get a knot in my stomach because why would that be the place you would go? Yes, be a fan. And okay, yes, I get it. Fan is short for fanatical, blah, blah, blah. I get all of the lines. I get all of that stuff, right? But to take it to where when you legitimately start to cheer harm to someone, and oh, by the way, an accident in NASCAR is not just like, tweaking an ankle, by the way. It could mean it could mean the guy's life. Yeah. And to hear people cheering because, dude, today, now, really? Okay.
It's because people like Chad Pennington and Bubba Wallace, they represent the physical manifestation of what the fans of that specific team or that specific sport believe is wrong with the specific team and the specific sport. Chad Pennington got ragged for being a quote-unquote game manager because he didn't have a Dan Marino-like arm. He didn't have the personality of a Vinny Testaverde. He didn't have that intrinsic connection with the New York Metropolitan franchise. Bubba Wallace...
How to read.
Yeah, that on top of it. Jeff from Florham Park is pretty mad that the Marshall graduate who played with Randy Moss is not up to his level of going down to Dizzy Lizards over in Hempstead and getting into a shirtless fist fight in front of the Golden Crust.
Screaming, working man, play working man. Rush favorite.
Fireman at ass idiots. And for Bubba Wallace, he's a young, outspoken African-American man who is going into a sport, and no offense to those who like NASCAR, but is considered the good old boy last bastion of Southern American nostalgia. And there are many drivers in NASCAR who are progressive, who are, actual human beings who don't treat those who are different than them as different than them.
Right.
And we come to this... Brian Regan, the comedian, said on Opie and Anthony many, many moons ago that people don't like certain things because it's not what they're used to. When you go against the relative normality of whatever the situation is in, and Marvin, you obviously have dealt with this because you have broken the norms every place you go. I have done that as well in my career. When you come in and you decide to try to change a culture, or you have a different mindset than those that have been there for X amount of period of time, or you have a philosophy that runs against the very vocal portions of specific fan bases, you're going to get heat for it. You're going to be considered a pariah. We can look at a lot of outspoken athletes. Colin Kaepernick, Kurt Flood, even a Terrell Owens can be considered
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
Not just for what he did, but what he said should happen now that he joined the league. He was we talked about his Hall of Fame speech where he spent most of talking about there should be black managers in Major League Baseball.
And there's still a massive deficiency of that. Even though it's significantly more than it was when Jackie Robinson got inducted into the Hall of Fame, there's still, and you could we can go into that conversation across all sports for an insurmountable amount of time. But people do not like change. People, as just people, it's just a human thing. It's a sociological part of who we are. We're not fans of change. And that manifests in so many different ways. It explains a lot of the societal ills of our country and just human society, because we are resistant to change. We are resistant to things that are heteronormative to our atmosphere and to our society. And when you break that down into base component parts, people like Bill Veeck, who try to push against every norm and every, railing, ailing ideology of modern baseball, was cast out and considered a pariah. And then you see that at every level of sports and society. But
then you see them adopting his ideas.
Yep, exactly.
After the fact. They start adopting his ideas. The only thing I haven't seen adopted yet is no one's gotten a guy that's 3'2" to go stand in the box to pinch hit to take a walk.
Not yet.
Not yet. Not yet, but I'm sure it's coming. I'm sure it's coming. You know.
Oh, I wonder where.
Yeah, no, I was reading about that the other day. Just imagining. Can you imagine if Twitter was around then?
Yo, imagine if TV was prevalent for every baseball home game. If you don't know this story, Bill Veeck was the owner of numerous sports teams. One of them was the St. Louis Browns, and they played in the same town as the St. Louis Cardinals. They were the American League version of the team, and they were not that good. So to try to draw a house, Bill Veeck signed a 3'2" gentleman who was named Eddie. I can't remember his last name. I'm going to look this up.
I got you. Goodell.
Eddie Goodell. Eddie Goodell.
Edward Card Goodell.
And he had one at-bat in Major League Baseball. I don't know if there was more.
We apologize. He was 3'7".
3'7".
My bad.
Yes.
My bad. So you can I'm 6'6". You can make fun of me being 6'6", the way I just diminished that young gentleman.
I'm somewhere in the middle. And then he got up to the plate, and the batter's box is subjective in baseball.
Yes.
It is knees to elbows, ostensibly. And the pitcher could not hit a strike zone for a 3'2" gentleman whose strike zone was maybe 18 inches.
I think
being kind.
10 inches too much. I think you gave him 10 inches too many.
Yeah. It's like trying to get a bundle. It's like trying to get an XLR cable through the eye of a needle. You're just not going to do it.
There you go. Not today, kid. And so, but it's funny, this owner, you just talked about all the things that he did. Talk about love of the game and want to be a part of a situation, you know, and his mentors that kind of taught him the same thing, right? He was willing to do these sort of things, and you might want to say that they were for the flash in a moment, and probably part and parcel they were, but the reality of it is he was always trying to find a way to entertain the people who bought a ticket, always, and quite frankly, you know, I see nothing wrong with that. You know, Matthew knows probably more intimately than anyone else my issues with the New York Jet ownership over the last, I'm just going to go 30 years.
They trash.
Yes. They is, you know, absolutely nothing about the fans at all. And, oh, by the way that team is always put together just like a potpourri of leftover pizza products is just ridiculous. There's no continuity. There's been no sort of stability. The one thing of continuity we had was we had a great special team coach that we let go. And who's his name? I can't, you know, now I think he's special team coach with the Titans or something like that. But that was it, you know. So to have an owner that actually cares enough, not just to shell out money for a situation, but to put in time and to try to develop something that's real, I'm never going to ignore that. I will always appreciate that. And Bill Veeck, man, I would love for Bill Veeck to own a team that I loved, just to watch what he would do, because I knew he would try to do something because he was thinking about me. Yes, he wanted my money. Why not? But he was thinking about me when he was doing it.
And also, you can thank him for the advent of national and regional broadcasts, because he was the one pushing for a shared cut of TV revenue between each team. Because at the time, the home team would keep all the TV money, and the league and the other team would get nothing. So when the Yankees are making more money than God, and the St. Louis Browns are making F all, there's a lot of things about sports that mirror the American economy, and baseball and football and baseball have developed the keystones to what I like to call as sports socialism, because the only way for a pro sports league to survive is, and you and I have talked about this ad nauseum over our past 11 years knowing each other, it's going to be built on team owners being team owners, the governors, right, what have you. The franchise model is the most successful model in pro sports, and no other model has been able to break through. When you look at the XFL, the American Alliance of Football and Sundries and Tap Dancing Shoes, you see that the league-owned model doesn't work. The franchise model works, and the only way for a franchise model to succeed is with revenue sharing and the implications of socialism. And we can get into a socioeconomic argument about the tenets of socialism in a society, but that's not this show. And also, I'm tired. But when it comes to pro sports, when you have markets like Green Bay, Wisconsin, you have different parts of the country where you have, in the NFL, top 10 media markets, and then the bottom of the barrel when it comes to some media markets. The same thing in MLB, same thing in NHL. When you look at some of the media markets they run in, the only way for leagues to survive and remain healthy, aside from player depth and player parity, which we have now more than ever across all sports except the Eastern Conference of the NBA. Let's go Knicks. You have this financial parity where each team is set up to succeed. But the problem with that is when you're able to guarantee tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in income every year for these teams, and you see it you see it across all sports, but you see it in smaller markets. And I don't count the New York Jets or the New York Mets as small market teams, but they're operated like small market clubs because their ownership, even though the owners of the Jets own Johnson & Johnson, the New York Giants are owned by the Tishes and the Mars, and they actually spend some money every once in a while. The New York Jets, it's not good.
Wait. No.
I think they tried to sign Mark Gastineau to play at DE this year.
I think they tried to sign me, but I didn't recognize the number on the phone. So there you go. But and it's a great point. When you're guaranteeing a certain level of success from the start, which NFL has always put itself in a position to, like we're talking about here, they've not had to show their work. They've not had them prove, because no matter what, before we sell a single ticket, a single hot dog, a single parking spot, a single T-shirt, a single jersey, that we're gonna bring in this much money. It's guaranteed. So, two things on that. One, there is an expectation of pride of ownership. And I don't mean in terms of team ownership, but pride of ownership in terms of what you do within a situation to make it the best as possible, like a Bill Veeck would do. Because I think Bill Veeck is the kind of cat that regardless of how much money he was guaranteed, he would still go out and find Eddie Goodell and put him in there if it meant something. He would still go out there and find, have a clowns versus octopus hockey match at halftime of a game because people are going to want to watch that. I would. And I don't like clowns.
And also, let's look at it like this. The most austere franchise in sports is the New York Yankees. You know what they're known for? Cotton Eye Joe and the YMCA done by their grounds crew during the 7th inning stretch. You know what the Mets are known for? The Chem de Luna song from the Godfather. Every New York Met fan knows. 7th inning stretch, take me out to the ball game, and then you hear dun 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 dun. Just woke up my dog.
I was gonna say that the New York Mets were known for their starting rotation being done by June. But anyway,
it's July. It's July, and they're all healthy. We haven't played a game yet, but they're still healthy.
I know. Don't push it.
Don't put that voodoo on me.
Don't put that voodoo. Don't you put that voodoo on me, Ricky Bobby. So now the NFL is getting a taste of what everyone else gets all the time. So with the NFL being the NFL, and I gotta say it, got it wrong. I thought that they would have not only just a better plan, they would also treat it better, and they have not. There's never too late. Never say never. Yada yada yada. By the way, the rumors of me being the next James Bond is not true. I already told them no. I'm not going to do it. My English accent sounds like a cross between Boomhauer and Ed Orgeron from LSU. So look up those two people, and that's when I try to speak with an English accent. That's what I sound like. So that's not going to happen. I look okay in a suit, but that's about it. So the idea of the NFL now with these challenges is going to be. I'm very curious. See, just from a general standpoint of how they approach this with all the noise on the other side, right? All of the social unrest, all the other things that's going on now, where people have time to think about it, have people have time to deal with it, how they're going to approach that all on the other side. And speaking of the other side, all right, if you work a job where a text you sent 20 years ago or a social media post you made when you were 17 could mean, or 15, could mean you losing your job or being removed from your professional situation. Whether you want to say it's fair or not, that's not what we're talking about here. But if you're in that position, then the people who would challenge you because you made that text, you sent that text, you made that post, should also not challenge you when you decide to use your platform to talk about social injustice and other social issues that are important to you. And that's what I mean when I say the double standard of social media. You have players that have come out, they found out that when they were in high school, they sent a racist text that was considered to have racist content or sexist content, yada, 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 text or whatever. But then the second that these cats start to use their platform to talk about making social change and what they feel is a positive route, they're told to shut up. We just want to see you. We don't care about that. We want to see you play. And obviously that's not true, because the second they say something you don't like, you want them out the league. And then when they say something that you like, they're cool. And then when they become famous and they say something that you don't like or don't agree with, just shut up and play. I just want to see you play because your playing obviously is the most important thing to me. And now more than ever, right? Players who are sitting out this upcoming season or their upcoming season, or players who have decided, and by the way, this is not just on the men's side, on the women's side too, that decide to make this as a time to make their platform for social change and everything else is great and it's wonderful. More power to you. That's a hard choice to make. We talked about choices before. For whatever reason you're deciding not to perform this season because of health or for whatever, it's all legitimate. Whatever you decide, you want to play, fine. I got you. You don't want to play, fine. I got you. Whatever, because it's your decision. As long as it's good for you and the people you care about, the people you love, the people you want to be with, I got you back. But those of you who are deciding, not only that you want them to play regardless of the situation, and oh, by the way, only say what I think is cool for you to say, because otherwise I can't stand you and you should just shut up and play, go away. Go away. Because if someone told you not to say something, the first thing you say is, my First Amendment right, I can say what I want to say. Well, guess what? They can't too. So you can't say, well, you can say this, but you can't say this. You can't. No. So we're seeing the backlash more and more now with like we started the show today talking about the Washington Redskins, right? Here it is. They're under fire from all over the place again for something else. And yes, Dan Snyder gets the sledgehammer to the head every day.
Can't say it's not warranted.
You took those words right out my throat, because I was going to say, I guess can't say he doesn't like it because he does very little to change it. And I guess he's a firm believer of it. He's a firm believer of all press is good press. So, but that being said, at some point, more than showing your work, it has to start somewhere. Okay. So just to be frank, just to be completely upfront and frank about it. When I first became a professor, one of my closest colleagues at the time was doing something not cool. And I brought it to the attention of our department and et cetera. And yeah, I was a rat. Okay. And that person ended up not having their position anymore, and other things happened because of that. But did I do it for that? Absolutely not. I was just trying to protect the people that we're supposed to be helping, and that were the students, and this person was not.
Oh.
So They're just certain lines that when people need protection, they need to be protected. And you can position it however you want to position that. Say about that whatever you want to say about it. The reality of it is, in this particular case, women working within the sports industry is a mega challenge. Is a mega challenge just because of the embedded systemic sexism and just misogyny of the mentality, the childish mentality of so many sports fans and athletes and the like, right? So much so to the point where when if an NFL athlete comes out and says that they're gay, well, it becomes like, oh my God, the sky is falling. And I will tell you that I've lived in numerous places, so giving nothing away with this. Been around players from professional teams, including NFL, in many of those cities. And I know many of them that did not play for the team that other people thought they should play for. I just say it that way. But they could never come out and say that. There's always had to be the image of the macho athlete and this other stuff that's completely BS. And because it, whatever the stupid reasons are. I mean, grandma would say, don't argue with stupid because no one will know the difference. So I'm not going to make an argument here. But it's just the reality of the double standard that these cats have to face. That no matter what they say, they're going to lose. No matter how they do what they do, they're going to lose. If they're honest, they're going to lose. If they're dishonest, they're going to lose. Because there's a vocal minority that believes things should be a certain way are going to make it difficult for them. And maybe that translates to how much they get in contracts or if a team signs them. Or what was the player from Missouri that was drafted?
Michael Sam.
I don't want to say it wrong. Thank you. And, when he kissed his boyfriend after he was drafted, it was big doggone. It's like, why are you guys making a big deal about that? Just look at the guy play. All right.
He was a Big 12. I forget the conference that Missouri's in, but he was a defensive.
They had just come to the SEC. Yeah. I think they had just come to the SEC at that point. So he might have been first team, or maybe he was second team.
He was first team. Per my recollection, he was an elite college player. But we've seen with a lot of elite college players, especially undersized defensive ends, they don't make the transition. And when you couple that with incessant attacks on his character due to his sexuality, a bad bouillabaisse is boiling there.
Exactly. And it shows you, it just, unfortunately, it speaks to the weak-minded, loud minority of people. And I guess I'm saying that because I want them to be the minority. I want that sort of social ignorance to be the minority. Because I just want it to be. I would like to believe. I want to believe that the greater majority of people that are efforting to be more self-aware, more self-giving, more socially conscious, more socially whatever, are efforting to do so. And we might not hear them because that kind of stuff doesn't make the news or whatnot. I want to believe that, but when you hear Bubba Wallace getting booed and then cheered when he has an accident, because of, it's his fault that NASCAR doesn't want the Confederate flag anymore. There's I'm getting speechless because there's so many things wrong across the table with that simplistic conflation of just ignorance. Look, things mean what they mean. And Matthew, I think I've been pretty honest here when I said I was conflicted on a lot of things, especially when it comes down to the Washington football team changing their name. And I thought I would try to make my point as honestly as possible, but I hope I made it clear that I'm willing to listen to anything, because if something bothers someone, it should be addressed. It should be stated. You know what? So-and-so is offended by this. Guess what? Then we shouldn't do that. I had a band that had gotten a sponsorship from Hennessy, the alcohol company. Now Matthew's known me a long time. Many of you don't know me. I've never tasted alcohol in a day in my life. I'm 54 years old. Never tasted alcohol. Never smoked a cigarette. Never smoked a joint. Never just. I'm not because of some holier than thou reason. I just don't want to. I got enough going on in my head. I don't need any help. There's stuff going up there that you just don't. Just trust me. No. Leave it alone. So
less stimulants, the better.
Right. So in my band at the time, and I will say his name because we had this conversation openly and honestly, and that was a guitar player that was also my first record, a guy by the name of Mark Fowler, who was a recovering alcoholic. Well, he said he would say even to this day after being sober for 30 years, he would still say he is a recovering alcoholic. And Hennessy was offering a huge sponsorship for like 6 months of shows. For a cat, and as by the way, my record wasn't even done yet. I wasn't even out yet. I had not headlined anything yet. I was just basically playing like dates here and there, and I was still touring with other people. And I got together with the band, but before I did that, I went to Mark first, and I said, "Here's the situation. I don't want to put you in a position where you're going to be uncomfortable." Because one of the first things I was said was there are going to be a lot of Hennessy paraphernalia around. There'll be a lot of taste tables and things like that. And I just don't want to put him in a position of being uncomfortable. It was bad enough we were playing in clubs, but I had in my rider that there would be no smoking, no alcohol for like the first however many seats or chairs, next to the stage. And that was for me too. It wasn't just for him. It was for me. It's for the health of my band. So he said, "No, I think I'll be okay with it. I think I'll be fine. If I have a problem with it, I'll let you know." I said, "Not a problem. We can work with it." So I went to the band. And to a person, my band was 15 people at the time. To a person, every single person said, "What about Mark?" Because they didn't know that he and I spoke already.
Yeah.
But to a person, every single person said, "What about Mark?" Because they knew I didn't drink. They knew he was fighting not to drink anymore. And to the point where they would not even drink backstage because they didn't want us to. They didn't want to be around us when they did it. I said, "Look, do what you do. Be responsible." But so I'm sharing a story to say.
And I want to say as well, because you and I have been friends the entirety of my 20s. Since I was about 18, 19 years old, we were, teacher, student, then mentor, mentee, and now friends outside of all that. And I drink. I don't drink to excess, but I don't feel comfortable drinking around you, and I don't feel comfortable swearing around you because you do it so rarely. And even though we don't do it on this show, if you hear me in real life, I am a kid from Sunset Park, Brooklyn. I grew up on stoops. I grew up sitting on top of those green boxes on cars, on car hoods and trunks. Like I am New York City inner city trash. Have been, will be, no matter what I do in my life, no matter how nice my voice sounds, at the end of the day, I'm still a kid from Brooklyn. And the 7 dirty words are a constant part of my vocabulary. But Marvin is one of the most educated, one of the most precise in how he uses his words. And every time you swear, it throws me off. Like when we're texting and we're just talking about stuff, and I'll see that, I'm like, what?
It takes a lot.
Yeah.
Wait, I still remember the very first time I said a curse word.
Oh, so do I.
It was in a basketball game, district playoffs. Pulled down. I jumped over a guy's back, and I pulled a rebound out of his arm. I mean, I'm sorry. I stole a rebound from him. Turned around. It was on the inbound pass. He got it. It bounced up. It hit the rim. It did some kind of funky thing because it was a horrible pass. He jumps up. I jump up behind him, and I have to reach down. I take it from him, then spin, put it up right-handed, made the basket, got caught for the foul. I turned to the ref and said, "You're an MF for a lie." And I remember the entire gym froze. My coach said, "Was that Marvin?" He cursed. He must be sick. Bring him in. He needs water. Something's going on. He's about to have a stroke on me. So in situations where in service, whether as a police officer, as an observer, Coast Guard auxiliary, as whatever you want, the various other jobs I've had, as tense the situations have gotten with gunfire and everything else, I still don't curse. I just don't. But when you get me there, and one thing had to do with the Jets signing Joe Flacco.
Yes. Yep.
It was only one word, and I think I put in 27 letters for that one word.
Yeah, it was robust.
It was one curse word, one syllable, but it had 27 letters by the time I finished with it. When I said, I think I left out the vowel. I think that was about the
it was all consonants.
So it just takes a lot for me to get there, right? So I just it's not who I am, but I'm not offended by those who do. Is what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. But I understand and respect people who are offended by something. So if a name of a team, if a name of an organization, if something that's done or whatever is offensive, and oh, by the way, if people say I just don't like it, I've written you off, because that's not a reason. I just don't like it is not a reason. Okay. But if you get into the whole thing of, Native Indian history, slurring of names, so now we got something. Okay. You just enlightened me. If someone were to come and say, they find the name Jets offensive because Jets are bad for the environment, I might kind of make a face for a second, but I'm willing to listen to that because I care about the environment too. It's the only planet we got. I obviously didn't make it through astronaut school, so I can't go nowhere else. I got too many bills to pay to leave, so there you go. So it's like, I can, but I can make light of that. But if someone says, what, the name of this team or the name of this whatever really bothers me, or the way this is presented really bothers me, I'm going to listen to that. And I believe that other people should too. And of all the times, the owner pinata, Snyder, should say, okay, you know what? I'll take the punches, but guess what? I'm going to get out in front of this one. Even if it's just to be different, just to mix it up. Now was the time. Now was the time when he could have not have been slammed by the stick so many times so candy came out of his belly, and he just still won't do it. And whatever the name might be, I'm purposely not following it. By the way, I'm purposely not following it because I don't want to hear the noise, the din around what it should be and why it should be what it is. I'm going to trust that the people who are more intimately involved will get people who have been intimately involved and intimately aware of what's going on, that they will come up with a name that will be whatever. Because what's my favorite phrase?
At the end of the day,
people are going to watch them play anyway. They're going to watch them play anyway. Mm-hmm. It's the NFL. Okay. And as much as the NFL is being tested, I do believe I'm going to stick with my bet till the very end, even though I don't see it playing out so well. That when the coin is finally flipped and Ed Hockley does his Hulk flex on everybody to say first down and tears his uniform with the muscles. I know he's retired, but he's the only rep that I can actually think of that actually has a cool name too. Until that happens, the second it happens, everything's going to be all right with the world. People will be in the seats or watching at home or watching on their phones or watching their computers and doing whatever because it's the NFL and we're going to watch. And that's what it's going to be. But talk about a chance to get it right and you still don't. I'm just going to tell you, when you said it was well-deserved earlier, I think he likes it.
I can see that. He's a combative human being. If you remember, there was A to Z, or there was a itemized story that came out about a decade ago that broke down every issue the Washington football team had under the ownership of Dan Snyder. Dan Snyder decided to sue the writer, sue the outlet, which was a free paper in Washington, and I believe he made some claims that they were being anti-Semitic.
Yes.
Yeah, that part I was a little cocked on.
Please fact check us on this one.
Yeah.
But I do remember that too from that article. Yes.
Yeah, but that was and I'm looking this up right now.
Okay. So a person was willing to go that far. Okay. We live in a time now where nothing's underwear anymore, to quote the Minions, right?
So yeah, I've got the story right here. This is back in 2011. Snyder had sought $1 million in general damages as well as an unspecified punitive damage from the weekly paper, its parent company, Creative Loafing, and journalist Dave McKenna. McKenna, in November of 2010, put out the Cranky Redskins Fans Guide to Dan Snyder and broke down basically every single thing that Dan Snyder had screwed up while the owner of the Washington football team. Snyder denounced the story, and the newspaper filed suit in February of 2011, and after the newspaper declined to apologize or retract the piece. Snyder agreed to dismiss his suit, and both sides agreed to bear their own legal costs, as well as a mutual release of future claims and negotiations that were completed on Saturday. $34,000 were contributed by readers to the paper's legal defense fund. Yes, so in his original lawsuit, Snyder said he was defamed by several parts of the article, including the suggestion that he had been kicked out as chairman of the board of Six Flags amusement park chain and had gone all Agent Orange by cutting down a stand of trees on federally protected land that blocked river views from his Potomac mansion in 2004. He also objected to the story's assertion that he'd been caught forging names on consumers' long-distance phone contracts while heading a marketing firm, Snyder Communications, before taking over the Redskins in '99. He's denied all these allegations. Snyder also said that the story insulted his wife, Tanya, a breast cancer survivor who has been active in efforts to promote awareness of the disease, and that the photo illustrations of him with horns and a goatee were anti-Semitic.
And that was from which article and which publication again? I apologize.
This report came from the Washington Post on the story, right. But the Cranky Redskins Fan Guide to Dan Snyder, which was written by Dave McKenna, who I met at the Deadspin Awards 3 years ago, that was for the Washington City paper.
Awesome. So here you have a case where, all right, for those of you who are considering becoming even quasi-public figures, whether it's by being elected to office, which makes you a true public figure, or a coach or anything else, understand something. Everything you've tweeted, every Facebook post you've made, everything you've done now is open season. So I don't think you can scrub it because stuff lasts forever. Stuff lives forever. All right. So when the more you try to bar Katie at the door, the more people are going to try to find a way in to say, okay, why'd you do this? Why? Because, and Matthew said it beautifully earlier, if I'm giving you money to your franchise, to your league, to your whatever, I have a right and I have a say as into what is being presented there and how it's being presented there. NASCAR fans feel that way because they are fans of the Confederacy and what it meant and the other things that come with it. I'm not going to put them all in one, but paint them all with one brush. But there's a certain mentality there about what the Confederate flag means and what it represents, and they don't want to see that gone from NASCAR. So when they figure we're paying our money so we can boo Bubba Wallace, and when he crashes, we can cheer, they figure they figure they can tell Dan Snyder, these are the things that we know you've done. And instead of addressing the allegations with facts, to address them with a lawsuit or whatever, and with his hurt feeling, because it's probably only one, dude, you're asking for it. So if it's something that you've done, it's something that you've said, when you're called on it, just say, yes, this is what happened, and here's how we dealt with it. And guess what that does? Okay, wow. Thank you for not hiding it. 1, 2, thank you for telling us how you dealt with it. We're going to fact check it now, but thank you for telling us how you dealt with it. And then guess what you're able to do at that particular point? Move on. Because lies, because things that people do to steal and take from other people, disingenuous actions, they have a smell, they have a stink. And the media will not let it go until they get to the root of the smell in the house. They want to find out, where's that rotten egg, so we can get it out of here, or at least let everybody know where it comes. How did it get there? Must have been, So that being said, Dan Snyder, this was your chance, dude. This was a chance. Fix it. You know what? The dude who just bought another ticket to pick up a broom handle and stop whack you so you can get all the chocolate Reese's out of your stomach. you just gave him an extra swing for nothing, man. Again, it's like, hey, if you like it, you like it, and that's fine. That's fine because Matthew, you work in the wrestling world, right? You work in, and there's some cats who like being the heel. They love it when the crowd is booing, right? They love it when they get the chance to.
There's no better feeling on planet Earth than when a sold-out venue is wishing you were dead. As someone who has had numerous old people swing on me, I've had children swing on me. I've had parents try to swing on me. I've had people kicked out of venues for getting them to react in a way that would have them hate me. I was a professional antagonist in the professional wrestling industry for 8 years. Now I produce professional antagonists.
Did you still have that suit jacket, by the way?
I've got like 8. I've got all of them. I've got all.
My favorite was the brown one with all the little.
Oh, that's still around. Yeah, that's in a storage space. It doesn't fit me anymore. But, but as a professional wrestling producer and talent and fan, you look at how do you get a reaction, and when you're cutting a promo, and this is something that I've taught people, you're looking for when you're the heel. And this is something a wrestler named Steve Corino taught me when I first got started in the industry. As the heel, you believe what you're doing is for the greater good, what is right. You're doing it for the right reasons. You may not be going about it in the right way, but you feel that your intentions are purer than the good guys. And you present yourself that way. And Dan Snyder has been doing that for as long as he's owned the Washington football team. Woody Johnson's done that. The Wilpon family, Jerry Jones, he who shall not be named.
Perfectly fine. We have a new audience now, so they need to they'll start to learn the list.
Yeah. There's a litany of athletes and personalities and team owners and commissioners. Roger Goodell has embraced that more than I think any personality in sports outside of combat sports in recent memory. He seems to take pride and joy in the fans booing him to death every year at the draft or every time he is shown on television or at a stadium.
And you know what, to that point, and to that point, to kind of step in the middle, and please, I want you to keep going. Roger Goodell has earned my respect, not just for that, but also what I perceive as his willingness to be as transparent as possible when it's something that he has say over. Because I know when he came out and made the comment he made about Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee, that he took a lot of heat for that. And oh, by the way, that wasn't just a have fun, cute, we're gonna boo the commissioner because we're booing the commissioner thing. That was serious social blowback that he got because of that. And he's a smart guy. There is no way that he did not consider that was going to be the case. But because of what he believes in, he took a step in it. He defended it. And guess what has happened now? Blowback is gone. People still question it, but the blowback is gone. Why? Because he stood in the face of it. And he was honest and personally transparent about it. And I've seen him be that way about other things that came up. Now, if the owners are doing stuff behind his back, like they're colluding to keep Colin Kaepernick out or other things, or Antonio Brown or whomever, and they're doing it behind his back and he doesn't know it, I could see that happening because he technically works for the owners. He works for them. He's not an owner. He works for the owners. But his honesty for the game and his passion for the game and his awareness and acceptance of the fans' place within the game, I truly believe is to be admired. And that's why this whole idea of the NFL not wanting to show their work and not having a plan and not being even honest with the players, I find very surprising. Because I would have a hard time unless he came out and said it, because here's the amount of respect that he's earned from me. I'd have to hear him say, you know what, I was kind of jerking those guys around with that one. Or my team because he's not making the schedule. He's not there's other people doing that stuff. Operations people are doing that. So I don't see him having a hand in sort of jacking this stuff around. But if he came out, he'd have to come out and actually say it for me to believe that he had something to do with it. Because I just don't believe he would. That's just where I'm at with it. And dude, you're so right about that. You have to be the senator, right? I'm gonna do this thing that some people consider evil, but it's for the greater good. Mm-hmm. That everybody else that and like I say, it's I'm gonna be the cat who's gonna sneak in the ring and hit you in the back of the head with a chair. I'm gonna be the cat who's gonna do this. I'm gonna be the cat who's gonna interrupt your match. I'm gonna be the cat who's gonna push the ref over the top rope. I'm gonna be that cat because guess what? They boo me. They love you more. They cheer you more, but they know who I am too. And guess what happens to our viewership, our listenership? And guess what? There's always gonna be that one crazy guy. Like I had an uncle that loved Mr. Spoiler from the old NWA
Don
days.
Jardine.
The idea of the spoiler with the glove and the claw. There's a foreign object in the ring.
Yep.
He loved that cat, and whenever the spoiler, he'd jump up and yeah, there we go, no spoiler, and we'd all like go after him. So it's like NWA Wrestling 2 happening in our house as we're watching that on TV. They're going after him, and now he was also the kind of guy that you had to sleep light when you stayed at your house because at 2:30 in the morning he might jump in the bed and put a claw in your head until you gave. And I was like 4 years old, and he's like squeezing my brains out of my ears, going, give into the, So, just think of Darth Vader as like, your uncle, and you say something your uncle don't like, and there you go. God bless that guy, man. So, but yeah, it's if you want to be the heel, you want to be the heel, fine, be the heel. And if you think it's for the good of the sport, maybe that's what Dan Snyder's doing. So if so, good on you. Well done, brother.
Dude can get heat.
And I tell you, I want to hit you with a sledgehammer. Yeah, Bloody D-Block gets the trash can, but you get the sledgehammer. So it just is what it is. And again, the most important thing is, and I'll just keep saying this until I'm proven not to be true. I truly believe, as much as the fans want to see these cats back, the PGA is back without fans now. Watch the last couple of weeks of that. It's really weird. It's almost like being on the course yourself because no fans follow me when I play golf. I can guarantee you that. Although, either that or they're doing like public service or they're, on probation. You got, this part of your payment for your crime that you commit. You got to go watch Marvin play golf. No, send me back.
A fate worse than solitary. Watching Marvin play a full round.
Man, I'll just go back to jail. Just lock me up. It's seeing these sports trying to get it right is I believe the majority of them. I want to believe. I sound like Mulder. I want to believe. For those of you who are not old enough to know what Mulder is, just look up X-Files. I want to believe that the sports want to get it right. That yes, they want to make their money. Yes, who cares? We all get that part. But what's more important than anything else is the health and well-being of the guys that are involved. We know more now than we knew back in 1919. So let's act like it. Can we at least try to do that? And we just hopefully we'll see and get it done. And so we will end today's show with two hopefully super positive notes. One, ESPN has finally heard people, and starting, I forgot the exact date, they will have the first Black American woman host for an AM radio show. NBA, the WNBA, LA Starks, power forward, Chiney Ogwumike, I believe is how you say her name. And if I'm saying it wrong, please at me, and you can drag me all you want to. I tried to get it right. But Chiney Ogwumike will be the first Black American woman to host the AM sports show for ESPN. She'll be doing the basically the shift created by, it used to be Mike and Mike in the morning, then became Mike and Wingo, or Golick and Wingo, and then now Golick's son is, Golick Jr. is going to be doing, I think she should be doing it with him. And hey, there we go. I think it's a great move, not just because she's a Black American woman athlete, but because it's another voice with another idea, and it won't be the same old thing again. It's just something, a diverse point of view, and I think it's awesome. And I have a dream that we would get to a point that one day we won't say the first this, or she's a woman, he's a guy. We won't have to get into that stuff anyway. It'll just be this person is doing the show. That's my wish for humanity. One of the players that the reason I enjoyed playing first base were three different players, and one of them was a guy who played with the Mets back in the day. Big name guy who played for the Mets back in the day. I thought he was super good looking. I thought he was super awesome. He was the coolest dude on the block. You know who I'm talking about. I guess I'm gonna have to say his name. His KH is his initials. So he made my personal list because of when I finally get a chance to meet this cat. When I finally get a chance to see him work in person, I got a chance to see what he was really like. And of all the things I could kind of quasi sort of forgive, there was one thing that I just couldn't let go of. And that was he was doing, it was a Mets broadcast when I believe it was somebody, they were playing the Dodgers. And the Dodgers had a woman sideline reporter, and she was in the dugout doing an interview. And he spent 3 innings talking about women shouldn't be in a dugout. This whole thing, and I'm at that particular point.
That's disheartening.
And I might have the team wrong, so I apologize. And I'm sure if you Google this, you can find out when he had this moment. But it was just that moment just so disgusting because I thought it was so small-minded of him to go on and on and on, and he wouldn't let it go. And I mean, she's out of the dugout. The game is moving on. He's still talking.
It was
about
San Diego, by the way.
Thank you. I remember it being a West Coast team, but it was just I just could not. I thought of a cat who, and again, they say the worst thing you do is meet your heroes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of those cases where you meet a cat where like, dude, you're the reason that I even would pay attention to who a Rafael Palmeiro or Will Smith was when I was trying to get recruited out of high school, and those guys were playing 30 minutes away at Mississippi State, right? I thought Rafael Palmeiro reminded me a lot of Keith Hernandez and the whole nine. So it's like I want to play the position like that. I just it's just anyway, we keep it positive. Here's someone who was not that way for me. So this week we lost a couple of people who were very influential in my upbringing. I'm going to speak on one specifically, and that is John Lewis, the congressman from Georgia. So growing up in the South in the great island nation of Mississippi, where schools were not segregated till I got to high school, and this is the 80s, 1980s, not 1880s, 1980s. The schools had just started to segregate.
Desegregate.
I apologize. See, there's where my mind is, right? Because they were segregated before that, and I just started to desegregate in the 80s. At my particular school, even in Louisiana, when I left in between and I went to school in Louisiana, that school had just integrated. I was the first Black student body president, first Black student council president. I think I was the they called me the first Black drum major, but I think there was one cat before me. So anyway, there were a lot of firsts, like in my yearbook, about first this, first that, other, first Black, first Black, first Black, first Black, first Black. It was just like, wow. And so this is like mid 80s. This is 84, 85, 84. So one of the things that sort of growing up there in that era, for me in that area and in that era, was always trying to find a way to be socially conscious. My aunt was a classmate of Emmett Till, who was taken from us at such a young age for looking at a white woman, and found out that none of that was true. But Emmett Till's mother wanted his casket to be open because she wanted everybody to see what they had done. So I'm not going to bring everybody through all that stuff. So that history, the guy who killed Medgar Evers lived right across the river from where our neighborhood was. The guy who shot Martin Luther King was also had family in our area. So I have a hard time watching those documentaries. I have a hard time watching those stories because they've been such a huge part of my life growing up, and having lost uncles to lynching, having lost uncles to other things like that. That is still very forefront for me. And I'm also thank them because their sacrifices not only allowed me to become the person I am and want to serve my country the way I do, but also their sacrifices gave me the freedom to pursue things that I wanted to pursue because I would have the opportunity to do so. And that's what I want to talk about with John Lewis. I only met John Lewis a couple of times. So it's not like he and I have like these great stories of I met him this time, I met him this time, that. But the people who were closest to me, who influenced me growing up, Ron Brown, a Tuskegee Airman, who went from being a mentor as a child to being my professor when I come to New York, and then he gets his honorary doctorate the day I get my first master's, right? People like Otis Smith, who was from South Carolina, who was a classmate of Jesse Jackson, and he and Jesse also marched and walked with Martin Luther King. He became not only a mentor coming up, but he became my biggest mentor when I was at CUNY, when I met Matthew, and where I did so many programs to help kids coming out of underserved neighborhoods and underserved communities to get a chance to come to college and the whole nine. And that's why I effort so much to get students, no matter what color their skin was, to get them a chance to go to other schools, to not just think of just staying in New York. Let's get you to Harvard. Let's get you to Emerson. Let's get you to Yale. Let's get you wherever you want to go. Don't put a cap on your achievements. I want you to go there. Let me help you do it. But John Lewis was one of the reasons I was that way, because he influenced so many people that influenced me. And here's my 2 times of meeting him. Here's what I remembered about him. One, he was a cat who was as nondescript for I'm going to call him a world leader, not just a civil leader, that I had ever met in my life. Because here's my memory of John Smith. A year before I was born, he is the cat who led the march across the Edmund
Pettus Bridge. Yeah.
Thank you. Edmund Pettus Bridge. He's the guy in the trench coat who's getting beat and his skull is getting crushed. And he was 21, 22 years old. And he lived his whole life. He was arrested over 40 times. He was beat so many times. And here's a cat so my first memory of him was that. So I associated him with like, even though he was younger than Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and Jesse Jackson, those guys, I associated him with them because even at the age of 19, 20, and 21, he was already putting his life on the line every day so blacks can have the right to vote. Mm-hmm. He still managed to pursue his college dreams of going to college. He still managed to do a lot of things, but one of the things that he remember him talking about was, he said, never forget to have some fun. He said, I hear that you like sports. Yes, sir. He says, well, don't let that go. As long as it's fun, don't let it go. Never forget to have. And I'm thinking, here's a guy that my first memories of him is seeing his head split open as he's getting carried to a stretcher because he walked across the bridge. This is what you're going to say to me. Don't forget to have fun. Don't just believe and love what you do, but don't forget to have fun too. Because he never got a chance to play sports. He never got a chance to do that. He spent his whole life, from early teens, even pre-teens, until we lost him at the age of 80 in public service. His entire life was about giving something to other people, whether he met them or not. And that speaks a lot to what, I hate to say this, I want to see more of that. I hate that we have to see any of that, but I want to see more people like that, because in an odd way, that's how I try to live my life. That's why you make a better living as a professor than you do as someone who puts on a uniform to go in service. Trust me. But I still was willing to do that You make more money as a professor than you do as being a cop. Still, so is I people who have taught me and given me the opportunity to make the choices that I make to support the flag, to support the Constitution, to support this country, to do what we do across the world, are people like him. That's why, to me, he's a world leader, and him not being around anymore just kind of saddens me, because there was a voice at a time. He was doing what he was doing while Muhammad Ali was giving up the gold medal, while Malcolm X was we hadn't lost Malcolm X yet. Just people who were making statements about the service to the people that were greater to them, and the memories we have and what we have now is because of people like John Lewis. So I want to just give a shout out to him and give a respect to him, to say, all the things he say. Just try to have some fun. just don't forget to have some fun, and also believe in what you do. And that was something that my closest mentor that was with him was Dr. Otis Hill, who actually became chancellor of City University of New York. Dr. Hill was still with us. He was with the group that was with Malcolm was with Martin when Martin was killed, and he was with John Lewis that day on the bridge. I'm saying I don't have a lot of regrets. Here's one regret. One day in conversation, we were writing a scholarship program. Dr. Hill wanted to write a book about his experiences, and I started doing research on him, and which a lot of I could do from just my head because I've known him my whole life. So I was writing, typing stuff. We never got a chance to get to that book. We never got a chance to get with him telling his firsthand perception, firsthand reality of what it was like to be in those moments. And I think that's the only thing. Unfortunately, Dr. Hill got ill. He had to step down and retired. His family moved him back down here to the South. He's not able to communicate the way he was able to communicate before. But here's a guy who had done Dr. Hill had done, like John Lewis had done, all the things that he had done, and never once asked for any sort of recognition. And I'll prove it to you. We got a $4 million grant for the Men's Leadership Program that I was able to get. That was a scholarship program, young men into CUNY to get them, some of them were actually incarcerated at the time, get them out of that situation, give them a chance to come to school. And from that first group it was 20 kids, one kid was killed by his father. But of the 19 kids who remained, all but two have gotten graduate degrees. And I think of the 19, we actually lost a second kid too. I apologize. Of the remaining 18, I think 12 of them have gotten their PhDs and have moved on to become professors and done research and other stuff like that. When we got the money, we got enough money for the building to house a program, and I wanted to name it after Dr. Hill. He said, and I did all the paperwork for it, got everything approved. I was going to surprise him with it. He found out about it and said, "Don't do it. Don't name it after me, because it's bigger than me." And that shows you what kind of cat he was. So I figured, well, I'll at least name the library after him. We got a library built. No, don't name it after me. This is a guy, we would not have that program if it was not for him. And he still was like, no, it ain't about me. It's bigger than me. So people like that, people like him, people like John Lewis, thank you for being such great examples. And hopefully we can follow in your footsteps and do more of what you do to help us be who we are and be the better angels for what we need right now with what's going on moving forward. Matthew, any words? I hear Olive.
Yes, Olive was very moved by this. John Lewis is what we as Americans should aspire to be. Pushing for dogs barking, pushing for social progress, social justice, for equality for all Americans, and stepping up and doing your part, whether it's in the halls of Congress, whether it's on the Edmund Pettus Bridge, or it's just being kind to your neighbor, being kind to your friends, be giving understanding. That's a lesson we all learn in life. Some of us learn it a little sooner than later. I can speak at some points in my life, very young, of being selfish, hard-headed, and basically trying to figure out the fastest road. But thanks to you and thanks to many other great mentors and people in my life, you learn that the journey is worth the heartache, the struggle, the pain. Like, you're never going to, if you want things to last, if you want things to sustain, you don't get there, you don't get it and get to keep it if you take the easy road. There are always circumstances, there are always challenges, there are always things that feel insurmountable. Much like a dog trying to chew a camera. You find your way around these obstacles and you rely on those who fight with you, who walk with you, who take that long walk. You can, if you're doing something right, you're never alone. If you're doing something worthwhile, you're never alone. You may feel it at times. Lord knows there have been many a night where I have felt completely isolated. But in projects we've worked on, things I've worked on with other people, you learn you're not alone. You may feel it, but there is always going to be someone who will stand by you, who will work with you, who will understand you. And that level of understanding is what John Lewis fought for his entire life. And it was a life well lived. It was a life well earned, and a legacy that will outlast anything I'll do, anything many of us will do. And that level of selflessness, not to even get a coffee cart named after you, is something that I also aspire to. Because I'll have a building named after me tomorrow. I don't even care if it's like, if it's a dog walking park somewhere in Teaneck, I'll take it. But that just comes from a place of being an only child and, not having legacy.
Hey, well, you got olive, brother. That's all you need. So we thank you all, as again, for taking your time to listen to us this week, as you do every week, and however you listen to us, whichever method you are. Matthew, you can hear him with his wrestling cohort fan group. They do some awesome work in explaining, the current status and state and being of MMA wrestlers and UFC. It's just, you just have to experience it. Please check it out. I was working on the garden this week and I was listening to them kind of talk. It was really awesome. So again, we thank you for taking the time to listen to us, because we know that's something you just cannot get back. Please like and subscribe however you're doing it. And if you want specific questions, you can reach out to us on our social media pages. I'm at the site notes. He's at M. Ryan Consulting, and Twitter and other places too. You can find us. Please do. And, be safe. Be with the one you love. Be the ones you love. Eat as many hot dogs as you can handle. And, name your favorite dog Olive. But more importantly than anything else, and Dennis Snyder, I hope you listen to this, all right? This is for you. Never, ever let Jason Bourne borrow your car.